Hi, friends. Today we're going to be talking about Argentina's history with racism. Number one, racism is thrown easily, and the word racism is thrown left and right. It's so easy to throw it. And yes, I get it that it's an insult and a way to try to demean the other person and beyond the other person being racist or not. I think we got to be careful of throwing that word in a light way. As a parent, I wouldn't tell my son to call somebody else that. So I would do the rule of thumb with that, and don't say anything that you wouldn't say to somebody's face. So if you're going to be on Twitter, or it's your choice, but I would apply the golden rule: do unto others you would have them do unto you. So don't call the other person stupid or racist if you don't want them to call you that. If you want to say that face to face with that other person, have a conversation and show evidence of that other person, by other person's bias or whatever, I would do that. But I would do have a conversation face to face. That's the problem that I see in the U.S. that we have, is our conversations are through TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and that's not face to face because we're told to not talk about politics. And I had to learn that as I came to the U.S., that we're not supposed to talk about certain things, but now we're talking about it, but we're not talking about it face to face. We're just shouting it through social media. So parents, be careful with what you do on the internet and what you teach your kids. And I would monitor and teach that to your kids too. I would do that all over the world. Second point, lack of knowledge. Knowledge now is based on TikTok or social media, what speed says or what speed does, or clips or baits or bots. And I don't know a lot about that, but I know that there are some, and that's existed. And previous governments from other countries have intervened in our social media to try to divide the USA. So I would be careful with that. So knowledge, go deep, make your kids model. If you're going to be reading less, well, at least go into deeper podcast and get two sides of the story. The majority of the time, the truth lies a little bit, not every time, but the majority of the time, lies between the two poles. And sometimes no, sometimes it is what it is. It's black or white, or black or white. So lack of knowledge. Read more. As a nation, we think we read, and in the U.S. we think we read a lot, but we read a lot of comics, I'm an educator, and we read a lot, but Diary of a Wimpy Kid. That's the most famous book that we read in our schools. And that's something that I have against public education. We've watered down everything so much that we just want to beg our kids there to read at least something, and we give them just junk. That's my personal opinion. Well, I mean, it is what it is, yeah, but I think we can do better. As parents, you always want to make sure that you do a better job. As teachers, you always want to make sure that you do a better job. As a nation, you want to always make sure you're doing a better job. Anyway, so lack of knowledge, and I'll put it out there. I think, how do I put this? We live in a society that likes to judge other people very lightly, without any love, but we call that justice. We call that love. Very interesting. Many times, and I'll get in some people's face, but people are leaning to the left. They think, oh no, just by saying this is spitting it out and just speaking acid words and just calling people this and that. You're not basing it out of love. I get it, and many times, I mean, sometimes if you're gonna say things or do things without love, just make sure that you're cognizant of what you're doing, and just know that what you're doing really. The Marxist theory, it's based on the only way to topple is through violence. So there's no way around it. Okay, that's Marxism. Neo-Marxism reinterprets that. They try to mellow it down, but in Cuba that's how it worked. In China that's how it worked. So if you just go to history, you'll find out that the only way to change systems is by killing a lot of people there and to be able to impose your ideas. Before you go and, I mean, you can. I mean, it's your choice if you want to judge me because I said that. I was indoctrinated for many years in Argentina with the Marxist theory and all neo-Marxism and all the philosophy behind it, and we can go in depth if we want to talk about Gramsci and postmodernism and post-Marxism or neo-Marxism. We can talk about that, but basically my point is this, that if you want to impose a system, many times you're going to do it through violence. So don't fool yourself saying, oh no, I'm being loving because I'm calling you a racist. I would beg to differ if that's really out of love. Empathy with other countries, empathy with other people, empathy with Venezuela. I just don't understand. We're in the middle of the World Cup, and this has destroyed. This has shown a lot of how petty we are as human beings. Many times, we're fighting over Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi when people are literally fighting for their last breath in Venezuela. They're under rumble. And we're talking about, yeah, you're a racist, or Messi didn't say hi to Bosnia. And people are dying. And how petty, how dark can you be to care about that and insult other people when that's what's happening in Venezuela? So having empathy, and I'm going to do my best as I can on my side there to give my opinion, put my leverage, and whatever I need to do there to help Venezuela. My wife's family is from Venezuela, and I'll do whatever, we're going to be helping out as much as we can there to help. And I'll just put a little parentheses there. I'd love to see the FIFA. Wouldn't it be so good there to, now that FIFA has lost a lot of their legitimacy, if they would donate 10%, 20%, 30%, 50% of their earnings to rebuild Venezuela. I'll be honest, because it's been really sad there. I mean, watching the World Cup, and then just crying over things that have been going on in Venezuela. And that's real. That's real. And I won't go a lot into that, but I'll just undercase that. I'm repeating it out of not laziness, but profound, profound desire there to have our representatives from FIFA there do something good with their money, how much they earned, instead of buying bigger yachts or whatnot. Or I don't care. I mean, if you deserve your big yachts, but wouldn't it be great there to donate, half your earnings there to help the nation of Venezuela and other nations that are in dire need. I'm talking about Venezuela because it's really present in my mind and my heart because of what's going on there with the earthquake. But I know that there are other cases that are really bad. But yes, that's another discussion. Point number 4, rivalry. There exists a lot of rivalry in between Argentina and Mexico, and Argentina and Colombia, and not in reality. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Between Argentina and Mexico, there's been a lot of bad blood recently, and I'll be honest. There's this guy, his name is Alvaro Morales. He's from Guatemala, but he's on the ESPN from from ESPN Mexico, and he just bashes and hurts and insults, and I'll be honest, Argentines, they don't like that, and they'll insult with more acidity, with more petty behavior. But it's a war of words. It only gets worse. But this gentleman, I'll be honest, like other gentlemen from Argentina, I would say, hey, I would fire him, honestly. I would fire him. I don't think he's doing a good job. Just like if I were doing a good job, they would fire me. This gentleman, he's getting more clicks, but he's fomenting bad blood. So I would work on that there. Argentina and Colombia, last Copa America, Argentina beat Colombia. It was a strong match. Argentina beat them through a goal of Lautaro Martinez. It was a strong game. It was a heated game, and so that's why many times you're going to hear Colombians insult or be really angry because of Argentina, and they won that last World Cup, the last World Cup and the last 2 Copa Americas. But anyway, and now for the big plate history of Argentina. Argentina had basically Argentina. I'll give a summary. Was part of, before it became Argentina, was part of Spain. Okay, so Spain had what's called El Rio de la Plata. So and if we go for many years before that, a lot of the slaves were indigenous peoples from Central America and South America. El Padre de las Casas, he wrote and he influenced, saying, hey, this is wrong, what we're doing is wrong, but instead of stopping it, they switched indigenous slaves for African slaves, which is terrible, horrible. But that's a little bit of how slavery continued in the Americas. We're talking about 1500s, late 1400s, and 1492, Columbus comes to America. Anyway, so in many parts you're going to have more slavery than in other parts, such as in Brazil. You're going to have more slavery because Brazil got their independence from Portugal in the 1880s or 18 something. Argentina abolished their slavery in 18, if I'm not mistaken, 1813, right, with the Triunvirato. But there weren't a lot of people in Buenos Aires, in Argentina. I mean, it was a very barren land, and not a lot of people lived in. Now I'm talking about, you know, the city of Buenos Aires. 40,000 people, according to what I investigated. But very little. And out of the population, 10% were the slaves. Okay, I don't know if they were indigenous. That's a mix of indigenous or African. And not all of the people were slaves of those groups. Remedios de Escalada, she was a fighter for the independence of Argentina. And Argentina was liberated from Spain in 1810. So by 1813, if I'm not mistaken, the Triunvirato, they declared that the slavery was abolished. Now, that doesn't mean that it stopped instantly, but that's what happened then. And so then there were wars, and that's a true part of Argentina's history, where African Argentines and indigenous and mulattoes, they had wars and they fought in the front lines, and that's true. And in the guerras and the wars where they were fighting in the south of Argentina, basically. And now when they were fighting against, the natives, it was a war between, the natives that wanted to keep their territory. We're talking about southern part, Patagonia. And so basically there were several presidents. Rosas was one of them, and then General Roca was another president. And he basically started making a line of defense where they were basically conquering the West in Argentina, though. What am I trying to say with this? So in the 1880s, the population of Argentina was around 2 million people, all Argentina, and there's a strong migration. So when you say that Argentina was really rich, well, it was really rich in the 1880s because there was just a few people, 2.5 million people, and there was a lot of cattle. So many people started coming down to Argentina as immigrants, and we're talking about a lot of people. So they doubled basically the population of Argentina very easily. So according to what I researched a little bit, very lightly, there were around 7 million people that came between 1880 and 1950. So it doubled or tripled the population of Argentina in just a few years. So what I'm trying to say that with that is that a lot of the African Argentine slaves that were freed, they started mixing with other races. So that's where you're not going to see a lot of, dark Argentines. Although you do see it, and if you go to Buenos Aires, if you go to different parts, even in Bahia Blanca where I grew up, you would see people that were dark skinned. And honestly, that's where we get offended as Argentines, as we feel that we're not the best people in the world, especially people from Buenos Aires. They're pretty stuck up. And inside part of Argentina, they really don't like even the people from Buenos Aires, the porteños. But I wouldn't even call them racist. I'll call them stuck up, but I wouldn't even call them racist. And I think it's an insult there if you call all Argentines racist. Because basically there are more migrants that came from Europe, and they basically mixed with all the other cultures. You're talking about every one person, I mean, you got mixed with other people, and I mean, your bloodline is gonna mix and it's gonna change. And there were many wars, and I'll be honest, I mean, Argentina we did fight a lot of wars. La Guerra de la Triple Alianza, three alliance war, but there's a lot of things that, you know, in every country there's going to be a lot of wars and a lot of bad things. Now that I wouldn't call every nation racist. I wouldn't call every Belgian racist, or every French racist, or every Dutch racist, or every English racist, every American racist, or America racist, or the Dominican Republic racist, or Chile racist, or Uruguay racist. I mean, you may have people, but anytime you're saying a whole nation, you're generalizing, and that's a proverbial sin. And you shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't be calling a person racist just because you're from a country. You base them because their culture is racist. That person is. You can't judge a whole nation. You can't say all blank are lazy, or blank are, racist. All are, uneducated. And we tend to do that. I get it, but it's not right. Generalizing is not right. You can use it as a tool, but calling another person by trying to insult, that's not. I don't think that's correct. Now I'll be honest, like several things that are very ignorant from Argentines, and we call that off, and the media does go after these people when they have these other issues. And like in Argentina, a lawyer went to Brazil and she really wanted to get under people's skin, and she made gestures that were incorrect. Argentines, I'll be another, not justifying, but Argentines are very, very aggressive in the way they say things, in a polite way and in a negative way. You can see that in their songs, in their poetry, in their literature. They're very creative in the way of insulting or expressing things. So just be careful with that. Well, anyway, I hope this helps a little bit. I'm speaking from my heart, and I just want this to end, but I don't think in summary, I don't think it's okay to call other people racist because they're having different policies, even that we may disagree or agree or disagree. We can go deep into history, and I haven't read everything, and I don't have all the knowledge, but I wouldn't call you as a nation, I wouldn't call you as a racist, and I prefer you to not call me as a racist, unless you get to know me and, hey, Anthony, I think this was racist. You got to check your attitude, you got to check your spirituality, but I think you're wrong in this aspect, and we can have a clean debate about that. All right, love 12. But let's bring a little bit of civility there to our social media there. Thanks, guys.